Hey everybody, it's Tyler with Cutthroat Research, and I'm here again with Ryan as always.
Hello.
And we wanted to talk about some other stuff, but Keyforge just keeps busting out more content that we have to address.
Yep, big changes in the rulebook. A lot of more detailed clarification for all the ruling questions that seem to have taken over a lot of the Facebook groups.
But first, before we get to that, I'm sure our handful of regulars want to know how the sealed tournament went last week.
Oh man, the sealed tournament. How did you do in the sealed tournament, Tyler?
I won the sealed tournament.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
So if any of you want to check that out, I pulled a really good deck. You want to talk about your experience in the sealed tournament while I pull up the deck name?
Yeah, I'm gonna. I know my deck's name is I think it's Castle Fighter, Swarm of Mimimac or something like that. I'm about to get the name of it myself, but my deck was like a 72 SAS. The AARC was not amazing. I know it was like it wasn't high. It was maybe 50. It wasn't bad. I had fun with it, but it was what I expected out of a sealed event. Just for my take, I don't play sealed as much as a lot of players that do play Keyforge do. I know that people enjoy sealed. I'm just 50-50 on it, and I know sometimes you get the poopy end of the stick or the short straw and end up with a bad deck. And I know some other people had some worse decks than mine, but I did not enjoy my deck. Didn't have anything in it that I found fun.
Did you? What was your record?
Oh, bad. It was like
2-1 or 1-2.
1-2.
Okay, because I know we played round 2.
Yeah.
Oh, my deck that I pulled, if anyone wants to look it up, is called Destro Cloud, the Alchemist Scammer. Ratings aside, it was Dis Shadows Untamed. It had double Succubus, double Gateway-ed Dis, a Control the Weak, a Dust Imp, a Life Ward, 2 Silvertooth, 2 Urchin, and a Fagin, a Seeker Needle, and Untamed had double Murmuk, Hunting Witch, Witch of the Eye, and triple Cooperative Hunting. It's a good deck.
I will. All I can say is I lost to you, and I didn't even see half of those cards.
Yeah.
Like, straight up, I had no idea half of that stuff was in there, and now I'm just hearing even more how ridiculous it is.
Single deck sealed is kind of a weird format because if someone high rolls or low rolls,
yeah, RNG plays a much bigger role.
Then it's much different than how they do Vault Tours, where you get the 3 decks and you choose one. That
right.
kind of it helps even out the variance a little bit. Mm-hmm. But like I know, it felt unfair to pull a deck like. Like the AARC of that deck was, I think, 60.
Yeah, I just looked mine up, and mine was actually a 59. I probably just saw it on my phone wrong or something. If it might have been a 50, it looks kind of weird, but it's definitely 75 SAS, 59 AARC. Like,
your deck wasn't bad.
It looked okay, but it just didn't perform how I thought it would. I battle fleeted game 1. My opponent opened library access and 3 cards just to combo with it. So he got like a fresh hand, and immediately I was just like, oh, well, this is how my day's going to go. And halfway through the game, I battle fleeted him for 5. So my whole hand was Mars cards. I drew 5, played my whole hand, played another 1 or 2 cards, and I came back and I won game 1. And then game 2 I played against you, and that just wasn't pleasant. And game 3 was a lot closer, but I don't know if I might have misplayed or I might have messed something up, but the game was really close and I just couldn't find a way to get the 3rd key in time. He came back harder than I could keep going. I ran out of steam, but oh well.
I just played cards.
Yeah,
honestly,
here we go. Let's do this.
Just with Urchins, Fagins, Seeker Needle, it was a lot of just dumping my hand.
Yeah, you just kind of. Here it is.
That being said, what do you usually look for in a sealed deck? Like what are things that like you lean on?
I feel like I feel like I'm better at playing with combo decks when it's not sealed, but realistically, I just look for the biggest creatures I can find that are going to be a nuisance for my opponent. I think that's like if you're not someone who plays sealed often or wants to be that strategic with it and get that granular. I think looking for big creatures is just big creatures that can actually kill stuff too. Like you don't want to have lollups without the might makes right. I think is what it is, right? The key.
Yeah, that
thing.
one's pretty good.
Yeah, like that's good. But if you have the lollop without the might makes right, then like lollop is okay because he doesn't do any damage when he attacks. But other than that, like Brobnar feels strong. I've never been a fan of Mars. Like I don't look for anything other than that really. Like there's obvious synergies. Like you're like excited if you see Brig or any of that key abduction combos.
I really just look for steel.
Yeah.
Like in sealed, I feel steel is way stronger.
Yeah.
I mean, steel's already the strongest thing in the game, but I feel in sealed because you're going in blind. So like anything that could like tempo shift in your favor,
just to get them off a key for one turn
huge,
is that's a big swing. I feel like that's one of the things too is like with Archon, if you have a Shadows deck that has a ridiculous amount of steel, it feels really nice. But like with sealed when you play, if they have like 6 amber and you just want to get them off that amber, like you can do that with one card and then not play all your other Shadows cards and just keep pulling them off a key every turn if you like not that you should, but like that's something that'll make more sense in a sealed environment in my opinion.
You definitely play a little differently sealed because if you're playing Archon and everyone's taking it seriously, everyone's Shadows is going to be packed with a bunch of steel.
Right.
But that's not necessarily the case in sealed.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're going in blind.
Yep.
And while playing against a deck that you don't look at the deck list too is a much different approach. You're going to be playing
you have to have a whole different mindset.
A little more cautiously sometimes, or I think sealed really does. Not only does it lean towards luck, but on top of that, if you're two people who got lucky, it benefits the person who knows the cards better, who knows like what to look out for.
Yeah. If someone knows every single card versus someone who doesn't know half the cards, like you're gonna have an advantage just because you're minimizing your chances of a wider variety of options that your opponent could have, and that's just going to secure you more wins in the long run.
Yeah,
absolutely. Like that makes perfect sense.
So today we do have an Archon Chainbound event, and I think I've committed. I'm gonna say it on the podcast so that I can't back out later today. I'm gonna play my deck with 13 chains.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna try and get that boy to power level 4.
Do it up, man. I'll play my chain deck today. I know everybody else in the our group was talking about it.
I tried to make it easier on myself by convincing a group.
I have 5 chains on a deck. I thought it was 4, but I have 5, and I don't mind playing the deck. So
I feel like honestly, chains don't bother me until you hit like 7.
Yeah.
That's where it's like, I don't know if I want to play this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it gets real rough.
I feel like even the deck I have 5 chains on, like I need to draw that whole deck in a very specific order for it to do anything. So it's just going to be an RNG day.
Yeah, 13 is going to be rough. I hope I don't drop. I wouldn't mind staying the same, but I just hope I don't
want to lose.
I don't want to lose chains.
Agreed.
I want to try to be that guy. I've talked in the past about how 22 chains I think is the highest you can get to, and you gotta really get lucky on that. But
super.
I want to try and be that guy. But anyway, the rules update. The Age of Archimedes is over. So Fantasy Flight put out rulebook version 1.4, and in it they added a timing chart and a couple like quality of life clarifications to the rulebook.
Yeah.
Along with the new tagged for destruction mechanic, which I think is a very smart way to future-proof some of the problems they had with the destroyed triggers.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure many of you who follow Keyforge to the degree that we do have already read through this and know what you're looking at and what we're going to talk about. But I still think it's good to cover and just have some vocal information on it as well.
For sure. Some of the small quality of life changes, like they go over exactly when, like, bold word colon abilities activate, like action abilities, omni abilities, play, fight, reap abilities. It's stuff most of us knew already, but it's good to have it if you're a new player and this is the rule book that's going to be in the future starter decks. It's good to have it laid out for you in a simpler way. There's a small change to how stun works.
Yep.
So in the future, or in the past, cards that would let you use cards, you could elect to use them to unstun. And now they've clarified that the card must make you use them in order to unstun.
Right, and so like the difference we were talking about before was with like anger for Brobnar. It says ready and fight with a creature.
So you would unstun if you used anger on a stun creature because it says ready and fight. You would instead just exhaust and unstun.
The entire effect is what's forcing you to fight with that creature. It doesn't say you may ready and fight.
Yeah, whereas like if you played a Horseman of War, it says every creature can fight this turn.
Right, that is an optional effect. You can do it. It doesn't mean you have to. Anger says you have to fight with that creature.
Previously, you would be able to just unstun that creature. If it was, say it was a Logos creature, played Horseman of War, you could, I'm going to fight with him, and then he unstuns.
Yep.
Now you can't even choose him unless it's making you. It's got to make you do the thing, or you have to choose it while it's your active house. It's it makes for less gotcha moments for newer players. I don't mind this at all. I don't think it really it makes a handful of cards in a very specific situation less optimal.
Yep, it makes some cards worse, and other cards maybe even less.
It makes stun better.
To a less degree better. Yeah, it makes stun better. And it makes being stunned a little more feel bad, which is fine because it didn't really feel like awful to begin with. Like it sucks having your creatures get stunned, but it wasn't like, oh man, I need to get this, I'm about to lose because of a creature being stunned. It never feels like that.
Out of all the games I've played, maybe I could count on one hand the times being stunned has cost me
the game, right?
The game.
Exactly. So I think this change is going to make stun more prevalent. And maybe some of your decks with a lot of tremors will go up in SAS rating.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. But besides that, let's talk about tagged for destruction.
Oh boy.
So we can read this specifically because it's this is the biggest wall of red text in the rulebook.
Yep.
Under the destroyed section in the rulebook, page 10, it says when a card is destroyed by a card effect, or when a creature has damage on it equal to or greater than its power, that card is tagged for destruction. After it is tagged, then that card's bold destroyed abilities trigger. And finally, the tagged card is placed in its owner's discard pile. If multiple cards are simultaneously tagged for destruction, the active player chooses the order in which to receive resolve the destroyed effects of any of those cards, and also chooses the order in which those cards are placed in their owner's discard piles. So this part is fairly similar to how it's been already, other than just adds the quote-unquote tagged for destruction.
Right.
So if multiple things are tagged for destruction, that's when you choose, if something's going to be destroyed. Destroyed effects happen immediately before being destroyed. That stayed the same. Once a creature has been tagged for destruction, the only thing that can remove this tag is a replacement effect that uses the word instead and replaces the destruction of that creature. An effect that heals the tagged creature does not remove the destroyed tag. So this answers the Doom of the Martyr question.
Yep.
That was one of the first big ones that came up. So basically, once something reaches you play zero. A board wipe, no matter what happens after that, unless you have something that says instead, such as Armageddon Cloak, that it's going away. That creature's going to be gone.
Yep.
An effect that may move a tagged creature to a different out-of-play area, such as the hand or archives, but that creature is still considered to have been destroyed for the purposes of card effects.
Right, so if you have, I forget what it is, there's a Logos upgrade that says when this creature is destroyed, put it in your archives.
Backup copy?
Yep, there's a
Biomatrix backup.
Exactly.
Stuff like that. When they're destroyed, they're put in the archives.
Yep, you have it on a dust imp. The dust imp's still going to give you the 2 amber, and it's still going to go to your archives.
And if, say, you had a Nefru on the board, amber will still be granted.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm pretty sure that's how it was ruled before, but this is a clarity,
Yep.
quality of life upgrade.
This is a full description of that being concrete information and confirmed by them directly. So.
And then, if a destroyed ability causes more cards to be destroyed, they are also tagged for destruction, and their destroyed effects will also trigger before cards are placed in the discard pile. So this is saying if something similar to, what is it, the Doombringer in the next set, destroy all creatures.
Yep.
That guy, Harbinger of Doom. So if he gets destroyed and he's tagged for destruction, he'll still destroy everything else too.
Yep.
Which I'm not sure why they need to clarify that, but there it is. Players cannot choose to sacrifice or destroy a creature that is already tagged for destruction. That's good to clarify.
Cannot sacrifice a creature that's already declared. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So for if some reason, if something would ask you to sacrifice some, I guess this is more so like if a board wipe wipes Jargoggle, and you have a life for a life under him.
Do you get to play that?
Can I sacrifice Jargoggle?
Yeah, and that would be no.
It's just more clarification to stop any weird 1 in a million scenarios.
Yep. Which is what we want.
It is what we want. And here's the big change. This is what affects Archimedes. A card only triggers destroyed abilities that it had at the time it was tagged for destruction. If a card gains a destroyed ability after it is already tagged, the new ability does not trigger.
Oh, that's significant too.
And this is I feel this entire red text could just be this. Everything else is them kind of explaining and clarifying, but the big thing is if something's tagged for destruction and then gains a destroyed ability through another way, it doesn't matter.
This is a direct this is directly at Archimedes. This is the biggest example.
Probably at Archimedes, and they probably looked at it and looked at future cards and
realized this is the best way to word it to
they're
apply to all of those cards.
It. Yeah, yes. They're future proofing their rules.
And so basically, for example, if you have Archimedes and there's three creatures on each side of Archimedes and a card then get played, Archimedes is going to archive the card on each side of it, and the rest of the cards are going to go to the graveyard with Archimedes.
Even though they do collapse in,
because they're all getting
gain the destroyed ability.
They gained it after the destruction was
since
already
they're already
happening.
Tagged. Yes, they will not be able to trigger that destroyed ability.
Right.
This is a smart change. I like this.
It, and it's very simple to read that and understand that that's how it functions.
They were already using tagged for destruction as kind of a buzzword to explain destroyed abilities, so it makes sense. And even the example they gave is Dana's Archimedes, and it's that effect. And they give a couple more examples you could check out on page 10 of the rulebook just to really drive in exactly what that means. I'm sure in the future it'll probably be a big deal.
Yeah, we'll look back in a year and be like, oh, that's why they worded it that way. But
I personally
that's great.
Didn't think Archimedes was a huge deal.
Yeah.
I understood why it worked the way it did. I didn't think it was really that much, like, people got pretty up in arms about it.
I feel like it was a gateway to power creep, and people were scared that if cards were gonna be that good, not that it was that good, but like that card was a significantly good card compared to a lot of the cards. It might not have been like the best card, but I feel like people were worried that like if they're gonna release a card that's this dumb, what else might come out that we have to figure out and understand? And it was kind of that.
It was unintuitive to like the way you would naturally assume it would work, but it was intuitive in regards to the way the rules worked.
Yeah.
And now they're just changing the rules to match a more natural mindset, which is good. It's going to be, because I know every new player that I brought into the game, I had to explain this to, and some of them were like, oh, that makes sense given how, because I'd explained how destroyed works beforehand to them. Like, oh, that kind of makes sense. And some people were just like, I don't get that.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't work.
But so they tagged for destruction. It's smart. Yeah. They also go over for each. I didn't feel this was needed, but I guess some people did. Some abilities have an effect that include the word for each, and people want to know what you could split up between multiple things and what just affected one thing. It's pretty simple. If something says choose a creature and then for each X do X, that affects the one creature.
Yeah.
If something says do X for each X, or I guess I should be saying Y, you could choose multiple things. So Red Planet Raygun says choose a creature and deal 1 damage to it for each Mars card you reveal from your hand.
it's only going to hit that one
It's only going to hit that one
That's
creature.
why it has you target it, obviously.
And then Cooperative Hunting says deal 1 damage for each friendly creature you control.
And you can just ping that around as all you
You
want.
can move that around to as many things as you want. And Sack of Coins, similar situation. I think that was the one that people were kind of confused about. Sack of Coins is the for each amber in your pool, deal 1 damage.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it goes over lasting effects. This was a small change, along with replacement effects. It just kind of tells you when they trigger and what you can do with them. They changed like the timing on library access wild wormhole. They go over as a reference for like the lasting effects.
Mm-hmm.
Where before it would be if library access was already an effect in play, you play wild wormhole, get the amber bonus, then you would draw the card for library access before resolving the play effect.
Right.
Now they've determined that those are simultaneous, so the active player would choose how to resolve them.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, I think that's good.
Yeah, I think that's
fine. I don't feel bad about any of these changes.
I don't think like the wormhole library access, like being able to choose the order of it. It very rarely is it going to change in a way that's going to be significantly in the favor of the player. Like the RNG on it's still
RNG.
Still there in a different way, and you making that, unless there's 1 or 2 cards left in your deck, choosing the order of those cards isn't going to do a lot in like a lot. There's not a lot you can do to manipulate that any further.
Yeah.
So like, why shouldn't they let you choose which order you want to do it in? Like, I don't think that's gonna ever become game breaking.
Yeah, I agree.
So.
We have a couple of ratas too. Magda the Rat now gets rid of it was the only creature that had a bold lettered leaves play ability, so they got rid of that because that just led to a whole different headache.
Yeah.
So now it reads elusive, play effect, steal 2 amber, and then persistent effect, if Magda the Rat leaves play, your opponent steals 2 amber.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of leaves play : it's now if it leaves play.
Right.
So that's good. Yizilfix Snowdrone from Age of Ascension now just has a I guess more concise wording. It's play, archive a card. You may purge an archive card. If you do, stun a creature.
Yep.
Before it said you may purge an archive card to stun a creature.
If you do.
It was kind of, can you do that anytime? Is that part of the play effect? What's going on with that?
Right.
It was just sloppy wording. They made
Gotcha.
it neater. Everyone knew how it was supposed to work. I don't think anyone really tried to use it any other way.
Right.
I think the big argument was like, do I have to purge that card that I just archived?
Right. Okay.
Maybe.
Gotcha.
I never had a problem with it. Life for a life. They changed it to sacrifice a creature. If you do, deal 6 damage to a creature. So, that's good. Now
Nice.
it says sacrifice a creature. And
As its own
if
thing.
you do,
Instead of
is
and. Is
instead
what it
of,
said, right?
I think it used to say a sacrifice a creature, deal 6 damage to a creature.
Gotcha.
And now it says if you do, clearing up any people who might say do as much as you can.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. I was trying to figure out, like, how could that even be manipulated the wrong way, but okay.
And then
That makes sense.
there's a slew of FAQs.
Yeah, that's a long list.
All of them seem to be from Neil's little puzzles that he put in the Keyforge group, where he was calling attention to rules that could be interpreted multiple ways.
Right.
Rules that were kind of confusing, and they cleared them up, and they referenced the things they changed in this rulebook to do so. And I'm sure we'll see more of them. Which, honestly, I know a lot of people get annoyed with that, but I think it's
great.
good.
It's great for the game.
Yeah.
Clarification is like the first step in making a game that next level. Like, not being able to understand how things work is not how tournaments are played or promoted. You know what I mean?
Well, not only that, but it's good to have a community that is so quick to try and, like, hey, I see this
problems
might be an exploit. Let's clear this up before it ends up being a 1 in a million chance that it's determining the grand champion or the world's champion. Or whatever the slim chances that this is going to determine something that might matter to someone.
Right. This one's.
Let's clear it up beforehand. And I honestly, people in the group might think it's annoying to see all the time, but I'm sure Fantasy Flight is at some point appreciative.
They're driven by it.
Yeah.
They have to be.
Yeah, because
that's literally like they have to see that and be like, oh. Like, if they don't already know how that works, they're immediately trying to figure out in their mind, like, how can we make this work the way we want it to without disrupting other card text? And it's a challenge to them, but I think that by them coming back with answers like this in this form is a good play, and it makes us want to be as invested as we are in the game.
It's good that we have a community that kind of outsources free play testing. Like,
yeah, that's very true.
Like, big ups to Neil for making the puzzles, and I mean, I like them. I think it's good to think about. It's good to come to a consensus and to know. I'm glad Fantasy Flight did this. I know some people are already on some new exploits that might come up, but overall, like, this just proves that they're listening.
It's a very solid milestone of progress.
Yeah, they're listening to things that might be problems. They're addressing them, and you got to realize too that Keyforge, Brad said at Gen Con that they're playing, a couple sets forward. So they're also trying to balance for things to come, and they have a lot more in their head than we do. Yep. They have a lot more on the table, a lot more moving pieces. Mm-hmm. And I think they're doing a fantastic job. The game's less than a year old.
Yeah, and it's definitely still climbing. It's growing at a steady rate. Like,
I think the only place it struggles is at the local level. I know a lot of people say they have trouble firing weekly events, and I mean, really, that just comes down to, like, try and build a community. Try to talk to people.
Just find anybody who can play, and if you meet them once a week at your shop, eventually you're going to be there playing one day, and some third person's going to come in and be like, "What's that? What are they doing?" And and it's just gonna happen if you put your mind to it. And
check up on people. Like, when you see someone's newer and they're interested, go introduce yourself. Be like, "Yeah, we come every week," and maybe the day before the tournament, like, "Hey, are we going to see you there tomorrow?" I know I've been messaging people who are less regular, like, "Hey, you coming tomorrow? Yeah. It's for a play mat." Like,
this is the time. This is the Saturday for this. Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
And I know we've talked about it before, and other podcasts have talked about it, but if you're really into the game, you have a bunch of decks that are good, but not great. Mm-hmm. Give those decks away, man. Like, get people into the game to where they don't have to play just a random deck.
Right. They don't have to pay money to get started. And that's going to motivate them to keep playing and get involved on their own.
For sure.
It will, absolutely. You can't do that with a lot of games, and that's part of the fun in it.
Yeah, the timing chart they put out, I like it. I was hoping it would be a little more detailed.
I think it's worth having a picture of on your phone just to reference.
Yeah,
but or anything past that is like, you don't need to be reading this or memorizing it. You just look at it when you need to clarify.
It does clarify, little things like when certain effects would happen during certain steps. It's smart. I think this would be a good insert in a starter deck.
Yep.
Just to have maybe a little.
I think it would be good to have like. Not always, but like Voltors and stuff. You could have these as little laminated sheets on the end of the tables, just to look at.
Not even that. You could just have these in card size.
Yeah.
Like regular playing card size, and keep it with your deck if you need to.
Yeah, true. If they could fit all this onto like a 2-sided business card thing, that'd be great.
But overall, I'm a fan of the rules update. I'm glad Fantasy Flight and Keyforge they care enough to clarify these things and make sure that the community feels listened to, feels heard. I mean, that's a huge part of it, honestly. And
Agreed.
For a game so young that they said didn't think would take off like it did, I think they're handling it really well.
I agree. I don't have any issues with them whatsoever. Like a lot of the times, a year into a game being out, like you might have. I mean, if you still enjoy the game, you're gonna have a small list of complaints, and like all I want is more cards sooner.
Yeah,
that's really like my brain is just like, man, I
can't wait for Worlds
cards.
Collide.
I know. I think by the end of the month I'm gonna have pre-ordered another box.
I'm hoping, a lot of people are saying that Worlds Collide might kind of create like a rock paper scissors type meta.
That would be great.
And it does, I mean, we have to obviously wait to see more of the set, but it does kind of look like that. I know we've talked about that, or maybe Coda versus AOA Coda has a small advantage because it does feel like it does for sure.
Yeah,
But maybe AOA has an advantage over Worlds Collide, and Worlds Collide maybe
completes the cycle
that cycle.
Yep. And that's very possible, and that's, I mean, we have no idea what they're scheming up and what their plan is for the future. But that would be something great to see, because then set 4 comes in, and that's just going to throw that whole trifecta out of whack. And I don't think any one of the 3 sets in this triangle are going to be overwhelmingly good compared to the other 2, but set 4 being introduced is going to shake things up. And I'm just as excited for that as I am for set 3 right
even
now.
with no knowledge.
Just like knowing that triangle could exist, and knowing that like inserting the set right after that, like that's usually set 4 in a lot of card games is like a big, like significant change.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I just want more cards.
Yeah, I want more cards. I want to see some new effects too. Like it's been a few weeks, maybe a month now. I don't know, when we first went over the Enrage and all of the new
probably roughly a
effects,
month since the release of that stuff.
Like I haven't even played with those cards, and I'm excited for the next like wave of all those. You know what I mean?
Well, we could touch on some people are worried about power creep.
Yeah.
How do you feel about power creep?
Everything that you do in life, to some extent, is gonna have some form of power creep. I think like anything that releases like new versions of itself in waves, like every card game, every board game with expansions, like they're trying to walk the line of how can we make this better or more entertaining or more ridiculous, like while still keeping people engaged. And like that's just how card games are. Like if you want a card game to not be power creep, you can't play a card game that's based on new set releases. Like you can play Commander.
Yeah, I actually think power creep might be more like in other card games. Power creep feels bad.
Yeah, it does, because your cards get worse over time, and then other cards become better, and you have no choice but to get them to keep playing at a competitive level. In this card game, I think power creep's necessary. Yeah. To an extent. I don't want to see like a huge power creep. Not at all. You want to see enough power creep. Like I want to see some power creep, because I'm going to be more excited for my new boxes. Yeah, like you know what I mean? How many decks do you have? 30 to 40 right now, maybe. Now, and how many of those do you really like? You have probably a handful of decks you really like. I play like 6. Yeah. Now, so why would you buy, 10 or 12 set 3 decks? You know what I mean? Like, you have some good decks. Why do you need to like roll the dice to maybe get more decks? Play with the new cards. But besides, like, I feel like power creep, like, you need to an extent, you need to make people want the new cards. Exactly. It's not blank. Like set 1, people were buying cards because we don't have anything. Mm-hmm. But set 2, I feel like that was the true test of how much are people going to invest in this, because it's not the only option. Yeah. And as more sets come out, there's going to be more and more options of what set do I buy, and they want to make sure that the most current set is worth our investment up front, and to some extent as long as that set is out. Yeah. Like they want to maximize how many sales they can make, and having like even with Age of Ascension, like there aren't any cards in this set really that feel awful. But in set 1, there's a few cards that just feel really bad. Like, you feel like you can, like, not do crap with them. You know what I mean? Like, some of them are just useless. And they want to minimize how many useless cards are in any set, because they want that set to sell. So that in itself is going to cause power creep. Yes. Like there's no way to avoid that, and it's healthy for the game. This game specifically, like you said, because of the non-constructed format. It's going to be curious to see, because I also don't want to see people just stop playing set 1 decks. No, not at all. At some point, but I do want decks to feel more powerful. Yeah, like it would be. I don't think it's unrealistic to say that it's unlikely that anyone's going to be playing a set 1 deck at a Vault Tour when there's 12 sets out. I don't think so. Like, I feel like what I mean is, I don't think that's unlikely. I think if it's done right, it could be in a way where decks compete better against certain sets to a point where set 1 decks are still just as viable, but man, I hope I don't face a set 3 deck or a set 5 deck. Yeah. I can see that too. That would make sense, but I feel like you said, with the power creep, like, imagine how much the power creep is going to have grown between now and set 10 or 12.
We just have to see. I hope it's not that drastic.
Yeah, and that's the hope, is that it's a slow, steady progression that makes the older sets and cards not phase out and become, like, not enjoyable anymore. And it shouldn't feel like you have to buy new decks to keep playing at a competitive level, but everyone should want to buy new decks because of the new effects and mechanics and gameplay.
Yeah. So, like, set 1 is definitely the Amber Rush set.
Yep.
Every card, I feel like every good card gives you an Amber just for playing it.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel puts it above set 2. I don't think set 2 is a bad set. I think set 2 has a lot of powerful stuff. And I think it can compete, but set 2 is very board oriented.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if designed right, set 3 could maybe inhibit Amber in a way that stops set 1. But because set 2 so board oriented, maybe
they can't keep up with the control and the large
board maybe
states.
That's what gives them an advantage over set 3.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be cool. I'm very interested to see how the meta shifts.
Yeah.
Especially since we have such a meta that you can't. It's not controlled by anything other than really what people decide to play.
Yep, at the event, and there's no worrying about changing your cards. You're changing your whole deck. Like, you have to pick a deck, obviously, but you can't think about like the way other card games are, and you can't go to a tournament being like, oh, should I play this card or that card? Like, no, you have to choose everything, obviously, and that's the best thing. Like, the game's unique for that purpose, but that's the best thing about it, and that's how there's any hope that set 1 decks are gonna last the long term.
Yeah.
Like every other card game, playing cards from the original set don't make sense in, like, today's world.
Well, every other card game has rotation too.
Exactly.
For the most part.
So, like, providing there is never rotation, which they said there shouldn't be.
Yeah, they said that everything
should be legal forever.
Will be legal forever.
Barring erratas, which is fine. Some cards need it. But, like, yeah, that's how I think about it. That was kind of, like, poorly worded, but I went in a rant.
I'm excited. I think the more sets, it might be bad for certain people. Even I'm kind of scared about it. But the more cards that are in the pool overall, the harder it's going to be to really rate how a deck's going to do without just playing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of people are going to be uncomfortable with that, but I like that. Because I would much rather, like, look at the cards, decide how I feel about them, play 5 or 6 games with the deck and be like, okay, this is good.
Yep.
And I think the more cards we have, the better the algorithm gets. Like, each set has its own algorithm, obviously, and I think that they just have to be fine-tuning it as they go along. Like, it's only going to get better and more fair. Like, even set 1 to set 2. Set 1 had a lot of dud decks, and it had a lot of really powerful decks.
Yep.
And then set 2, it has those same things, but not in such a large quantity. Like, the bell curve is smaller.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a great example, or a great description of set 1. But I know what you mean.
Yep. But basically, I don't know, tell us how you guys feel about the new rules, the timing chart. I think it's a healthy step for the game. I think that Keyforge is in a really good place, and I love this game.
Yeah.
We have an Archon tournament tonight, Chainbound.
Mm-hmm. You're supposed to be recording some gameplay there, I heard.
I'm going to be bringing my camera setup, and I'm going to try and record. Maybe I'll do like a little series on trying to get this deck to 22 chains.
Yeah.
And I'll just record all the games I play with
Between now and then,
Between now and then.
The grind.
If then ever comes.
Yeah.
But we'll see how that works out. Hopefully the footage is good enough where you put it up. I know I've been taunting gameplay videos for a while, but it just hasn't panned out yet.
Hopefully this is the beginning of the long list of them that'll be coming soon.
There will be at least 3 games recorded tonight, and I will put up at the minimum 1 by the end of the week if the footage comes out good.
Sounds like a plan.
But anyway,
that's going to wrap it up for us today, guys. We will see you next Saturday.
And like we said, let us know what you think. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that funky stuff.
Yeah.
See you next week.
Bye.